And we are back to What Did AI Say? At VickyL-4AI on YouTube. Thank you so very much for coming back to the podcast. As always, gratitude is the attitude. Let's go ahead and jump right into today's question. How do citizens successfully combat an authoritarian government? Citizens have historically been most successful against authoritarian governments when they rely on broad-based, disciplined, nonviolent resistance combined with institutional, economic, and international pressure. Violent uprisings tend to justify repression and fragment public support, while sustained civic resistance undermines an authoritarian regime's legitimacy and capacity to govern. Below is a high-level evidence-based framework, not tactics for harm, drawn from political science, history, and real-world cases. Okay, before we continue, I just want to interject here. I do agree that nonviolent resistance is better, but I also believe that there are occasions where violence is necessary. So I truly feel that Malcolm X was the violence that Martin Luther King Jr. needed in order to do what needed to be done for Black Americans during that time, during the 60s. So I don't condone violence, but I can't sit here and say that it is not necessary. So let's go ahead and continue. 1. Build mass legitimacy, the regime's weakest point. Authoritarian governments survive less on popular consent and more on compliance. Now, this is so very true. Complying only makes things a lot worse. Okay, let's continue. I keep jumping in here. Workers, police, courts, civil servants, businesses. And let me tell you, that's why they attack. And they didn't even put in higher learning universities, because that's what was the first thing attacked: the court system, then the lawyers, then the higher learning universities. I think that's the order that it went in. Okay, successful movements. Unite across class, race, religion, and ideology. Absolutely necessary. That is what happened in the Bacon's Rebellion, which is why the one percenters created the so-called white race. But uniting across class, race, religion, and ideology is vital. Frame demands around shared values: fairness, dignity, rule of law. Avoid purity tests that fracture coalitions. I'm not sure what they mean in the sense of purity tests, but I would guess that means avoid situations that divide. If enough people stop cooperating, authoritarian systems stall. Let me repeat that. If enough people stop cooperating, authoritarian systems stall. 2. Nonviolent resistance is statistically more effective. Research by Chenoweth and Stephan at Harvard shows nonviolent movements are 2 times more likely to succeed than violent ones. They attract broader participation and defections from security forces. Okay. Examples: India, when they were fighting against British rule. Okay. We've known that. The U.S. Civil Rights Movements, we mentioned that. Poland's solidarity. South Africa, when they were fighting apartheid. Serbia and the Malacefik. Nonviolence is strategic. It's not passive. You hear that? Nonviolence is strategic. It is not passive. 3. Target pillars of power, not just leaders. Authoritarian regimes rest on institutions, military and police, courts, media, business elites, bureaucracy, religious or cultural authorities. Citizens succeed when they 1. Expose corruption and abuse. 2. Encourage elite and institutional defections. 3. Make repression costly, socially, economically, internationally. You hear that? Make repression costly. I am constantly encouraging our governors from the states that care about their citizens to stop sending money to the U.S. government. And I truly feel in my heart that it needs to be done. Can't keep financing our own demise. We know what's going on with the administration. We know that they're not paying for natural disasters. The flood in Texas, the whatever went on in Colorado, fires in California, taking away all the different types of aid that the people need. They're not going to do it. And as time goes on, I believe that more and more services are going to be denied to the states and to the citizens. So why continue to send taxes to the middleman who's not going to do what needs to be done for your people? Keep your money, protect your citizens. Okay, 4, control the narrative. This is so very important. Authoritarianism thrives on fear, confusion, and isolation. Effective resistance documents abuses credibly, uses decentralized communication so no single voice can be silenced, counters propaganda calmly with verifiable facts, keeps moral high ground. When people stop believing the regime's story, power erodes. Okay, the one about keeps moral high ground, I have an issue with, because I think that right there is what is making the Democratic Party so very ineffective right now. When we say moral high ground, I understand that we want to be good people, and we all want to be good people and want to be seen in a positive light, even in the worst of times. Sometimes you do have to fight a battle where it's at. Sometimes you gotta do it. So now determining what those times are is a difficult thing, but sometimes you do gotta fight a battle where it's at. You, just because you are attempting to keep the moral high ground doesn't mean that you are going to allow, yourself to be abused. So, or allow other citizens or our country to be abused. So, there have been people that have been attacking the administration, and the attacks have usually been after they've been attacked themselves. And they've attacked with truth and with rebuttals to incorrect or misinformation that was thrown at them. And that has to be done. So, people will say, oh, that's not, keeping the moral high ground. It's a thin line. But I feel as though people who tell lies do have to have that pointed out to them, or else they'll just keep doing it. So I'm all for making the truth be known. You don't gotta be nasty about it, but if you want to be funny or sarcastic or, hey, whatever. Okay, let's continue. Number 5, economic and social pressure. Without harming civilians, general strikes, labor slowdowns, consumer boycotts, professional non-cooperation, like from lawyers, teachers, doctors acting ethically. That's what happened during COVID. The doctors that were against the misinformation that we were being bombarded with, they acted ethically. Can't say that. Authoritarian governments struggle when the economy grinds down and elites lose profit or stability. Let's repeat that. Authoritarian governments struggle when the economy grinds down and elites lose profit or stability. Economy grinds down. Elites lose profit and stability. That is our superpower, and we need to exercise it. Protect democratic institutions, even weak ones. I have an issue with this. Even flawed institutions matter. Courts, local governments, independent media, unions, universities, faith groups. Authoritarian advances fastest when institutions are abandoned rather than defended. I'm not defending bad institutions. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. But, this is what it says, and this is where you sometimes have to question, what's in AI. I don't believe that bad institutions should be protected. I believe that they should fail. I really do. So that's just me. Things have to fail so that we can get better things. I mean, usually when you have something that breaks, do you go buy something worse? No, you buy something better. So, if you're going to get something to replace it, or you fix what you have. But fixing what you have is usually only done if it was worth fixing. No one goes to fix something they don't need that's not sturdy and reliable and worth fixing. So that's my thing, is that when something's not worth fixing and it's not worth protecting, I'm not doing it. So I disagree with AI on that one. Number 7, international leverage without dependency. External pressure helps when it targets regime elites, sanctions, travel bans, amplifies human rights violations, avoids collective punishment of citizens. But movements fail when they rely only on foreign intervention. Interesting. I think that's so interesting. Okay, 8, discipline, organization, and patience. Authoritarian governments often fall due to internal collapse, not sudden overthrow. Successful movements train members in nonviolent discipline. Prepare for repression without escalating. Expect setbacks and long timelines. Plan for the day after to avoid chaos or new authoritarianism. I like that one. Plan for the day after. So, if systems fail, have a plan in place to create new systems that benefit everybody equally. Okay, let's move on, because this is a good subject right here. The biggest mistakes movements make. Turning violent too early. Hear that? First, at the beginning, they said nonviolent. Now here in item number 9, they're saying turning violent too early. Okay, so basically, there is a time for violence, but not early on. It's when it's called for, when it's absolutely necessary. Okay, fragmenting into ideological factions. Can't allow division. If we're going to work together, then we need to work together, put aside our differences, and know and remember who the real enemy is. Okay, centering personalities instead of systems. That's pretty self-explanatory. Ignoring economic realities. That's a big one, because there are a lot of people who, because they're comfortable, they have no idea what is going on with a lot of different states, and homelessness, and starvation, and a lot of things going on in our country. They have no idea that it's happening because it's not happening to them. So we cannot continue to ignore economic realities just because it's not happening to us. Okay. Lacking a post-authoritarian plan. We already hit that one. Core truth. Authoritarian power is not absolute. It is borrowed from the people it governs. Let's repeat that. A core truth. Authoritarian power is not absolute. It is borrowed from the people it governs. So, power is being borrowed from you. And I don't believe you gave this administration permission to borrow it. Take it back. When citizens withdraw collectively, strategically, and nonviolently, even the most repressive governments become unstable. Let's repeat that. When citizens withdraw consent, collectively, strategically, and nonviolently, even the most repressive governments become unstable. Okay, Chatgpt says if you want, it can analyze a specific country or historical case, explain early warning signs of authoritarianism. I don't think we need that. We're already there. Break down how democracies backslide and recover. That could be interesting. Compare revolution versus reform versus resistance models. Okay. So if you want to do a deeper dive with Chatgpt, you can. Let's go ahead and move on to Deepseek's answer. And just in case you forgot the question, let me ask it again. How do citizens successfully combat an authoritarian government? Historically, research shows that citizens can successfully challenge authoritarian governments, and that nonviolent, organized civil resistance has proven to be the most effective term strategy. Authoritarian movements aim to dismantle constitutional checks from within, often by co-opting independent institutions, corrupting elections, and suppressing dissent. Combating them requires a strategic, sustained, and society-wide effort. Okay, let me read those 2 points again. Authoritarian movements aim to dismantle constitutional checks from within, often by co-opting independent institutions, corrupting elections, and suppressing dissent. Combating them requires a strategic, sustained, and society-wide effort. A strategic, sustained, and society-wide effort. Evidence-based strategy. The power of nonviolent resistance. The core finding from decades of political science research is clear. Nonviolent civil resistance campaigns are twice as likely to succeed as violent rebellions. Interesting. Success rates. Studies of major campaigns from the 1900s to 2006 show nonviolent movements had a 53% success rate compared to 26% for violent campaigns. Interesting. So nonviolent movements succeeded 53%, and violent campaigns only had a 26% success rate. So I wonder why war is always our go-to. 26% success versus a 53% success, and war is still our go-to. That doesn't make any sense, but hey, I digress. Let's continue. The 3.5% rule. A key insight is that no government has withstood a challenge when 3.5% of its population actively and peacefully mobilize against it. This is a descriptive rule of thumb, not a magic number, but it highlights that success doesn't require majority armed revolt, but rather sustained, disciplined participation from a critical mass. That's important. That is so important. Okay, let's reread that. A key insight is that no government has withstood a challenge when 3.5% of its population actively and peacefully mobilized against it. 3.5% actively and peacefully mobilized against it. No government has withstood a challenge. That's major. Okay, so let's continue. I'm going to read this again. This is a descriptive rule of thumb, not a magic number, but it highlights that success doesn't require majority armed revolt, but rather sustained, disciplined participation from a critical mass. Why it works. Nonviolent movements attract a more diverse and larger number of participants, 4 times more on average. Nonviolent movements attract a more diverse and larger number of participants, 4 times more on average, which makes them harder to repress and more likely to cause defections among the regime's key supporters in the police, military, and business elite. Key supporters, always. Police, military, and business elite. Interesting. Practical methods of action. Gene Sharp's seminal work categorizes 198 methods of nonviolent action. Effective movements use a combination of these tactics to create pressure. 1. Protest and persuasion, raising awareness. Goal, express dissent, build solidarity, and sway public opinion. Tactics, public speeches, marches, vigils, symbolic acts, wearing symbols and displays, petitions, and using art or music. I like that because I know a lot of people, I've heard many people online say these mass protests, they don't make a difference. They're not they're not important, or they're not doing anything. Okay, so it's not true. Every little thing you do, from protesting to little messages you put online on your page, to all the different podcasts, to billboards, signs, radio stations, communities, churches. Everybody plays a part in this, and everybody has to play their part, because when you're going after authoritarian government, remember, they're coming at you from all different directions. They're getting this, they're doing that, they're doing this over here, they're doing that over there, and I mean, you feel like you're being bombarded. But as the citizens fighting back, we have to do the same thing. Can't just do one thing. We have to bombard them with all different tactics. That's the best way. Okay, modern application. Writing letters to editors, using social media to amplify credible information, and holding educational forums are accessible starting points. 2. Non-cooperation. Withdrawing consent. Most important. As they said, I think that was in Chatgpt, authoritarianism is your power taken from you without your permission. Take it back. So withdrawing your consent. Goal: disrupt the economic, social, and political systems that keep the regime in power. Disrupt the economic, social, and political systems that keep the regime in power. States, stop sending money to the government. Federal taxes need to stop being paid. Ooh, this video may get me in some trouble. Okay, but hey, it's what AI says. Okay, so let me repeat that one more time. Goal: disrupt the economic, social, and political systems that keep the regime in power. It is absolutely necessary. Tactics: consumer boycotts, labor strikes, rent withholding, walkouts from government institutions, and acts of civil disobedience. See, it just said it. Labor strikes. They said rent withholdings, but whatever. What kind of rent? Are the states paying the government rent? I would just say tax withholdings. They don't want to say it, rent withholdings, but it's tax withholdings. Okay, key insight. This is often where movements gain decisive power by causing economic strain and demonstrating widespread refusal to obey. Let's repeat that. Key insight. This is often where movements gain decisive power by causing economic strain and demonstrating widespread refusal to obey. Nonviolent intervention. Direct disruption. Goal: directly intervene to create new realities or block oppressive functions. That's good. Tactics: sit-ins, occupations, blockades, establishing alternative community institutions or communication networks. That's good. Let me tell you that's going to be necessary because the one percenters have put themselves in such strong positions in our lives. Gates with his windows could shut down our entire country. The others with their online applications that we all use, definitely establishing alternative community institutions or communication networks is absolutely necessary. Consideration. These are high-risk tactics that require careful planning, training, and legal support. Essential elements for success. Beyond tactics, successful movements share key characteristics: strategic planning and organization. Success requires more than spontaneous outrage. It needs long-term organizing, leadership, and clear goals. Examples like the Serbian Otpor movement or the Chilean No campaign started with small groups planning for years. Discipline and unity. Maintaining strict nonviolent discipline, even in the face of repression, is crucial to maintain moral authority, attract broader support, and make state violence backfire against the regime. Building a broad coalition. Movements must attract participants from all walks of life: workers, students, professionals, religious groups, and even sympathetic members from within state institutions. Diversity makes a movement resilient. Let's repeat that. Building a broad coalition. Movements must attract participants from all walks of life: workers, students, professionals, religious groups, and even sympathetic members from within state institutions. Diversity makes a movement resilient. I like that. Diversity makes a movement resilient. I gotta share that. Okay, let's continue. Institutional defense and legal strategy. Alongside street activism, defending democratic institutions is critical. This includes supporting independent media, protecting electoral integrity, holding officials accountable through legal means, and advocating for reforms that prevent power grabs. Advocating for reforms that prevent power grabs. Challenges and modern adaptations. Authoritarian regimes are learning and adapting. Yes, they are. Since about 2010, they have become more effective at countering civil resistance by controlling information. Huge. Controlling information is huge. Criminalizing protests, hardening security forces, and coordinating with other authoritarian governments. Therefore, modern movements must be increasingly creative, agile, and prepared for digital repression. Let's reread that. Authoritarian regimes are learning and adapting. Since about 2010, they have become more effective at countering civil resistance by controlling information, criminalizing protests, hardening security forces, and coordinating with other authoritarian governments. All four of those are currently occurring in our country. Therefore, modern movements must be increasingly creative, agile, and prepared for digital repression. I hope this overview provides a useful framework. If you are interested in a deeper dive into the historical case studies like the Polish Solidarity Movement or the People Power Revolution, Deepseek is stating that it can provide more details on how they applied these principles. Both Chatgpt and Deepseek were very good on this particular subject. I'm impressed. Okay, so how does any of this have to do with our everyday lives? We are currently dealing or living in administration trying to do an authoritarian takeover. And so far, they are giving it a darn good run. They're moving quickly and escalating quickly, and we have to do our part. We have to come together. We have to build coalitions that involve everyone from all walks of life. We've got to put the division aside and come together in order to take back our country. Let's move on to our positive saying for this episode number 63. And you know what? I actually like the one that was shared here in Deepseek. Diversity makes a movement resilient. I love that. Diversity makes a movement resilient. Okay, that's all I have for you in this episode. Thank you so very much for about, 34 minutes of your time. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next episode. Peace.